given this background color, I have containers in the parent container. So all those containers are descendant of this parent container. I am setting some properties for those containers as well, like background color, margin, padding, and color of the font. You see here. Let's try to execute this. So this one, the one with the blue background, is a flex container, and all these items are flex items. So what we are going to see will be, we are going to see some properties for this flex container. How those items, those flex items can be arranged using those properties. So let's check one by one. Here you can see for this class, I'm using this class here with this property, with this background color. And now let's see the other properties as well, like flex direction. It has row and column. So the one we are seeing here, this is a row display. So what we are going to, by default, the value is row. So we'll be see, let's check the column one. Save. Refresh this. You can see it is in a column now, right? So we can arrange that in this manner. There is another property, like column reverse. Column property goes from top to bottom, and column reverse, the item 1 will start at the bottom of the container. So let's check it. Let's save it. Okay. Let's save this. Yes. So column reverse starts from bottom to top. Then the next property, let's check row property now. Row is the default one, what we had seen before. This one, it is starting from this end, from the left hand side, left to right. And if I set this flex direction for row reverse, save, it will start from other end. It is from right to left. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So after that, let's see the other property, which is a flex wrap. So let's check this one with wrap property. What happens here? Here you can see, if I resize the screen, all item will try to fit into the container. So that's what the wrap property does. If I resize it, it will be like that. And there is this other property, wrap reverse property. So with wrap property, what is happening? Here you can see everything, the items, flex items are starting from top, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now if I use this property, wrap reverse property, it will start from the bottom. You can check it here. 1, 2, 3, up to the 10. That's how we can use this flex wrap property. And this is justified content. This property is used to align these flex items. So let's see those one by one. We check center. Refresh. All items are at the center of this flex container. Then the default property for justify content is a flex start, which is this. This is the default property. So we can change it to flex end. See here, it is just shifted towards the right side of the container. So here you can see the sequence as well. Then the next is, let's shift the other value, that is space around. Okay. This is aligning the flex items with space around that items. It is trying to adjust like before, after, top and bottom. Then there is this space between value. And with this value, this item will start at the end of starting of this container. So let's see. That's how it will adjust. It will align those items. Then after this justify content, we have other property, align items. So let's check. But to see this, to demonstrate this property, we need to set height of the flex container. Let's see, maybe let's set it for 300 pixels. Let's check it. Okay, height of the container is 300 and I have set it to the center. So that's how we'll get the output. After that, we can check the other properties for that. Center. Sorry. Let's check the flex end. Here you can see it is at the bottom of the container. If we set that one to the flex start, it will be at the top of the container. That's how. And then if you remember, when first time we set the flex direction property to the column value, the all flex items were stretched up to the other end of this container. So that is something we can see with this property, with one value which is a stretch value and this one is a default value. That's why that time we got that output. So let's see here. That's how. Because the default one is a row, all items are aligned in a row, and we have used the stretch property. It is occupying the space to reach up to the end bottom of the container. After this align items, we have other property, which is align content. To see this property, we need to set the height, then height and flex wrap property to wrap. Now here, let's check the values for that. Let's start with center. Okay, if I resize this, everything is at the center of the container. Try to fit in the center of the container. Then we can check the other value, which is a stretch. Let's check the stretch. Save. You can see the display here, right? So that's how all these properties works. We can use this property to nicely design our web pages. Let's check the other property, which is a space. Space around. Okay. You can see here, we can resize it. That's how. Then if we check the space between value, this is the display for this value. Then we can check the flex start. Let's see. Flex start. Starting from the left top corner, and then if I change it to flex end value, save this, refresh our page, it is starting, it just shifted towards the end, left end of the container. So these are few properties we saw for the flex container. For this flex container, if you remember, you can refer lesson videos which are already uploaded on the site. It has covered almost properties for the flex items, which are order, flex grow, then flex shrink, flex basis. So you can refer those videos for flex item properties. So let's move on to the next topic, which is a multi-column design. So what happens here in multi-column design? Sometimes we have big articles or big paragraphs on the web pages. So we want it to display as a news with like how we have it in a column manner. So we have some properties to display that big paragraphs, those articles like that. I have one container. I have created one container with this class my div, and it has this paragraph. Let's check the output first so you will get some idea. Okay, so this one is a paragraph here. Check something. Okay. we are doing here, we can divide that column, that paragraph into columns. Let me show you something like 1, 2, and 3. How we can achieve that? I have used this class here, so I'm going to set those properties. Okay. So for class 19, I'm using the property column count. I want to have 4 columns. Let's save. Okay, that should display. Okay. Here you can see we got the output with 4 columns. Now the next one, if we want to have gap between the columns, we have the other property, which is a column gap property. I want to set it to, let's say, maybe 40 pixels. Yes, now the space between the gap between each paragraph, each column is almost 40 pixels. Then we can set, if we want to have a line in between, so we have this column rule style property. Want to have true. Let's see. That way you can design it. You can set the width of this rule to maybe 5, but 7. Okay. So okay, that way we can set the width of that rule, and then 5 maybe, and then we can set a color for that. And this is a column rule color, maybe that one. Stop. Okay. So that's how we can design these lines here. Then there is one property which is a column span. So to see that property, I want to set a heading here. So let's see how it works. Yes. So you can see here in this container, I have this heading and then this paragraph. Let's see the output here. Okay, here you can see the output. Now what I want to have, this heading over these columns. So for that, what I need to do here, I need to specify this column span property to that heading. So let's see if that works. Yes. So we can use that way. We can use column span property to give headings for that paragraphs, for that articles. And then again we have one more property, which is a column width, where we can specify the width of this column so that all paragraph will adjust according to the column width we are providing to fit into this container. So let's see. Okay, here column width. How many? 50 px maybe for per column. So let's check the output. This is 150. So if we cannot see any difference, let me change it to 200. I need to comment it out. Let's check. Okay, so that's how. So to see this property, I need to comment out the column. So we don't need to specify the column count. It will divide the space according to the column width. So this is a column width property. After that, let's see the other one. Let's take out this, delete it. The column field property. Column field property. So to demonstrate this property, I need to set height. I have to set height maybe 400. And then it has value balance. So let's see. To see this one, we need this property. 7 but 5. Okay, let's see now. Okay, this is what we are getting. This is for the property balance. So you can see here the column height, the paragraph height is almost same for all one. It's just ending here, so that's why this one is shorter than the other one. So there is another property, which is auto property. Now you can see the difference. In this property, what will happen? This column will continue till the end of this column, bottom of this column, and then it will continue here, and it will end up somewhere here or there. So let's see. Okay, so this is what the output for auto value. You can see the difference. So with using all these property, we can design our pages according to our need. So I will stop here for my topics, and I hope you picked up something useful from this, which might help you in your assignments. Thank you so much. And now Mr. Edmund will continue further topics. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anna. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Edmund Kaboi, and I would continue with the other topics we have for this week. I'm going to share my screen so we can start. All right. So we've seen how to create flex layouts using flex boxes, flex containers, and flex items. Now, we are going to learn how to apply gradients and box shadows to flex boxes. We'll explore different types of gradients, the linear, radial, and the conic gradients, and see how they can be creatively applied to enhance the visual appeal of our web elements. We'll also look into box shadows and how they can be used to create depth and make our elements stand out. So I have here a template which I'm going to use. I'm going to apply the gradients and the shadows to these containers. So as you can see here, I have a container for applying linear gradients, and this is what we have here. I have a container for applying radial gradients, and it's the second, and the third is for applying conic gradients. So we're going to look at the three types of gradients and different ways to apply them in these containers. Now I have designed this page so it saves us time and for us to focus on what we expect to do. Now, for the H1, I'm sure we've seen these properties. These are properties we've all looked into before. So I've used these properties to style the H1, and the H2 is just simple properties. And the flex container, I have here the flex container and the flex item, just like Ms. Anna have illustrated. I have created the border, and the display is flex, and my contents are spaced around. So I'm sure these properties are not new to us since we've been using them. So now we're going to start with applying linear gradients to our flex items. So for us to have more understanding, I have named the classes in a way that I can easily style them. So I have the first container, which is called flex container. That's the class for the container. And I have a general style for all flex containers. Now I also have the rest items inside the flex container, which is the flex items. I have a class called flex item in all containers. So I have three repeated flex container and flex item classes because I want to have a unified design for all my containers. Now, what I'm going to focus on now are the box classes, which we'll use to add gradient colors or specific designs to each boxes. So my other class here is, we're going to start with the box one. So we want to look at simple linear gradients in the box one. I'll start with my class. Now, we have looked at different ways to select elements or select classes in HTML previously, where we used studio classes and studio elements. So we're going to use one specific studio class that we didn't use in the last illustration. So we can also see how it's used as well. So all I'm going to do here is I want to use a selector, a studio class selector that's going to select the items inside the containers according to the order I select them. So it's called the end child. And when you use the end child, you want to specify what you're selecting or the order you're selecting. So if I say 1, end child 1, this simply means that I'm trying to select the first child or the first container with this class called box 1. So I have 3 boxes here. I have box 1 repeated, but I don't want to name them, so I don't keep calling the classes box 1, box 2, box 3. I just want the 3 boxes in this first container to have a unique style, and I want to apply and I also want to select them individually using the studio class selector. So I am using box 1, which is the first item in the first container, and here I'm going to specify my gradient. Now, to add gradients, we want to look at the first type of gradient, which is the linear gradient. So I'll do this in my background. And in a pair of brackets, I want to specify the direction of my gradients. So let me just type this and I'll explain it. All right, now the linear gradients here we have is selecting a color from top, which is usually the default from top to bottom, but I just want to specify this here so we see that we can alternatively change this whenever we want to. So from top to bottom, we are going to have red, blue, which we have here, and this creates a gradient that transitions as you have top to the bottom. So we are going to look at another type of gradients. Just going to copy this. Now this time we want to look at a different way to do this. We're still on the linear gradient, and now we want to look at linear gradient with multiple colors. I want to change the direction left to right, so I'm going to put right here, and this time, so we want it to change from left red, orange, yellow. And I'll change this to green. We save this. Now okay, so because I haven't changed the order, pseudo close, I'm going to specify that I want the second child of this class or this elements. So I'm going to specify here that this is not for the first, but for the second child. And now when I refresh, I have the color, the gradients I have specified from left to right, which is red, orange, yellow, and green. This, so we look at add gradients with angles. So I'm going to fix this to make sure that it selects the third child of this container. Now, here we want to look at how to direct using angles. So I'm going to change the direction here. And here I just want it to be 45 degrees. So I noticed in the class lesson video, if same challenge where the subtitle covered most of this. I'm doing this again so we can see how. So I apologize for the technical error. So we're going to fix that, but in the meantime, if you didn't see that properly, this is also the same example or the same pattern we did. Now, the class lesson may have used, there are different ways to apply gradients. You can use background image, you can use background like this as well. So here we're using a degree to specify the direction, and we want the degree to be at 45, to start at 45 degrees. So I'm going to save this. And also, I think let's change the color for this. Let's use just red and blue. All right, so now we've seen the ways to apply the radial gradients. And for radial gradients, we also have boxes. And this time it's no longer the box 1, but box 2. So we can, without affecting the other. So I'm going to copy this. And this time is for box 2 and the first child of box 2. So now to apply a radial gradient, we are going to change this to radial gradient instead of linear gradient. And here we just want something simple. We just want to change the colors. So the radial gradient will give us a circular transition. So yeah, I just want red. Let's change this to orange. Yellow. Okay, maybe that's too much. Let's just use red and blue. So we can use more colors for the next example. I'm going to save this. And now we have the radial or the circular transitions for our color. So you see the red starts from the middle, other parts of this container with the other color, which is blue. So let's look at radial gradients with multiple colors. Now this is for our second child, and all we just want to do here is add more colors to this. So let's start with red and make this orange and yellow and green. So we see how the different colors or the multiple colors we've added are transitioning from the middle: red, orange, yellow, green. Now let's look at radial gradients with specific positions like we have for the linear gradient. So you noticed we didn't add any direction because it's usually circular transition by default. So let's try one with a position. And this is for our third child. So here we are going to specify the position before the colon, and we can use percentage for the spread. So here I want to say I want it to be at, so use the keyword at where you want the transition to spread at 50% of this container. And also the remaining 50% of the container. So it's going to be an equal spread for both colors. So unlike when we did the first one for just red and blue, we noticed that it's there was no specific pattern to the color. It's just spread from the middle to the end of the container. But here we have it balanced, which what we have here is we have the first color taking 50% as specified, and the second color taking the rest 50%. So the transition, or the beauty about gradients, is the way the colors transition. So it gives us more options of colors that we can't normally or directly have with any other color. So it gives us a unique color blend, especially when you're using nice colors that have good combinations. All right, so let's look at applying conic gradients on the boxes. With this. And this is for our box trees. And I want the first child to have. So how do we apply conic gradients? We use the keyword conic and gradients. So we're just going to look at a simple conic gradients, just going to use plain colors. And what we just want here is to have two colors, which is red and blue. Now, this gradient transitions from red to blue in a cone shape. So you can see how it is in a cone shape, starting at the center and rotating around it. So you can see how it's different from this circular transition. All right, so let's look at how to apply conic gradients with multiple colors. And this is for our second child. And here we want to have more colors. So let's add more colors. I'll have orange and yellow and green. I'm going to save this. So we're basically going to have the same thing, but more colors. So you see it transitions through multiple colors in a circular pattern, starting from red and ending at green. So it starts from red and ends at green. All right, so now just like we have for the other gradient type where we have positionings, we can as well add angles for positioning or direction with conic gradients. So I'm going to copy this and paste. And this is for the third child. So let's set the direction. And here I'm going to say from 45 degrees. It to be red and blue. So this gradient starts at a 45-degree angle, transitioning from red to blue in a circular pattern. So it's still conic, but moves in a circular transition. All right, so now we've seen the simple ways to add gradients. Now I'm applying this to flex boxes, but you can always apply this to any element that can display colors. All right, so let's look at shadows. Let's add shadows to these boxes. So we're going to start with the first one, which is the first box. So just like we've seen with text shadows, we can add shadows to elements, container elements, or other elements that are not text. Now to add shadows to text, we use the text shadow property, but in this case, we are not applying a shadow to text, so we are going to use box shadow. So it's very similar to the text shadow, where we have the X offsets and Y offsets for directions, and then we have the blur radius and the color. So I'm going to give some value here for our first offset, and I want 10px for the Y offsets. And my blur radius would be 5px, and I want something a bit dark. So you can use any color. You can use hexadecimal colors, RGBs, any color you intend to use. So now this creates now a shadow that is offset by 10px to the right and 10px down with a blur radius of 5px and a gray color. So all you just have to do is remember, like we always did for when we use margins. So the first one, you look at it like a clockwise, or you can just simply look at it as the first one goes to the right when it's not a negative value. So negative values goes to the opposite direction. So the first one goes to the right and the second one goes to the bottom. So, but when it's a negative value, it goes to the opposite direction. So I could just copy this and paste in the other containers. And we're going to have shadows for all of them. So the 5px radius just tells us, blur radius tells us how much of this shadow do we want to see. Do you want it very visible or less? Now we can as well add, have more values or more shadows in a particular element. So let's try this with the second flex container. And we still use the box shadow. And then we specify the values. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing here first. Now, to add more shadows, all we have to do is after we have specified for the first, so we use the comma to separate the shadow values. So this now specifies for the first shadow and the second shadow. So remember, the direction is very important. You set the direction so you can have a more creative or more stylish shadows without them just being everywhere. So here I want to use negative values so we can see how its direction. So first, let me save this first. So I'm going to save this. So we see that we have the shadow just like the other one. Now I want to add another shadow. And this time I'm using negative values. So I'm just going to paste this, but this time it will be -10. So I'm taking the opposite direction. And the radius remains the same because it's just the amount of blur that we want to have. So you can increase it or decrease the blur, but you can't do that with negative operators or values. Then for the color, let's have something reddish. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Now you see that using the negative value, we got the opposite direction of our shadow box or the shadow itself. So I can repeat this too for the rest of the boxes. Save. And we have the creative shadow effects on our containers. So these are for gradients and shadows. And I believe that if you've encountered the same challenge on saying the way the gradients, the linear gradients or the gradients were illustrated in the class lesson, this should help us to understand it better. Right, if there's any question, this would be a perfect time. Are there any questions? All right, so I believe we have good understanding of this. So always remember to reach out to the admins from the WhatsApp group, and I wish you all success in your assignments.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye, everyone.
All right.